David. I'm sure you've read the Old Testament, and they were very strict about the law. And actually, Jesus tells them that, during those days of the Old Testament, you are not meant to eat the food that was meant to precisely be for the priest. Yeah? They were not meant to be eating. But here, David was instructing the followers to feed. So the very major difference that we see in this is one factor. What is the motive behind? And I really want you to be flexible in this because you're talking about rigidity. So I want you to be flexible in terms of the understanding to this, because I'm going to come in and give you maybe like the examples of today's life. And what, all of us are Christian. I'm sure we do attend church. Some of us have the privilege of being pastors of our flocks. And in this sense, he addresses us who are strict spiritual followers of the day. During the time of Jesus, those were the Pharisees. And it's easier to in fact look at the Pharisees of the day and say, they were very off the mark. They were very off the mark. But it only becomes relevant when you think of it in today's world and how it actually does affect you. Yeah? How it does affect you. And I don't know whether to continue and tell you maybe some of the things that I've seen on today's world as far as this is concerned. Now, if the Bible was to be written 100 years ago, 100 years to come, and the reference was on today's world, I want you to ask yourself, what do you think would be the reference? What do you think would be the story that would be told? Are you coming along with me? Yeah?
I think you need to force and give us reactions.
Exactly, and I want to start with you. Please give me an example. Give me an example where you think that today, if the Bible was to be written 100 years and you are probably the person who was to be given the example. What some of the examples that you think would really apply in terms of rigidity? Maybe say in today's Christian fraternity, church mentality, some of those aspects, because that is what is going to help us.
I think, well, now I don't know what to say, but I know one thing, that this rigidity comes as a result of people want to do things, they want all of us to see from one perspective, to see it in a certain way, so that if you do it differently, maybe then that is, you'll be condemned. And I know even some Christians actually especially the leaders, when the followers do something and they think it is a new thing to them, I think that time they'll clash. So maybe I was thinking about reasons why we are rigid. And I thought of some few things. Maybe one of the things is insecurity, or we are secure with how we need to do something. So that if somebody does it in a different way, that time we come up with a rod and we start beating the other, so that we want to bring them to be in one line. And especially this is exactly what Paul says in Romans chapter 14. It speaks of somebody is eating certain kind of food and the other one is not eating, then you start condemning the other one who is eating. And he says in both cases there's no one who is right. So maybe that's what I can say.
Okay. Another expression?
I think I would mention dressing. I think it started, although I don't know where we are heading, but I think there's a time it started bringing issues. I think some churches still struggle a lot with that. And this guy is very rigid. It's ridiculous. He wants me captured. I was saying dressing. Because again, we don't know if it's good to be rigid at some point or not to be rigid, but we know sometimes men were good in enforcing law. And then the other thing is the issue of women in ministry. So if the Bible was to be written today, I think we have used that. We would say in Georgia, ukienda hivi wewe ni jehanamu directly. And I know people have different views. You know what's supposed to be done. Then pia mambo ya giving kwa church siku hizi imeanza kuwa ni sheria. You know, like and people are being discriminated in church depending on how they give. You know, if you don't belong to that category, you unatoa tithe ya 10,000 kwenda juu, where voice yako haiwezi sikika. So I would say those things, if the Bible was to be written today, you would notice those things issues, real big issues.
More expression? I'm here today because we're going to touch people's lives because this is very practical.
Okay, I think with this one, rigidity and some form of aggressiveness, and for people who call the preachers today, some they are standing on the grounds that I have been called to do this, and some they are calling themselves the pulpit, and they are not waiting to be called by God and to be chosen by God. And you see, even others, in fact, they are going beyond. Maybe they are going to the political ground, and they are confusing maybe the church or the public that I have been called, and God, the Spirit has been speaking to me maybe now to come to be literally of performing the ministry and maybe to join with the political ground. And example, last election we had some pastors wanasema kwamba God convinced me, in fact the Spirit convinced me that I'm the next president of this country. So and I stand with that stand. So they were so aggressive.
Nah, to convince God.
So as a result of that, so nashindo after election tangazo we are coming to realize that in fact the Spirit today kama amekuwa muongo kulingana na those people.
All right. Anyone else that has
Let me give an example from my line of duty. The ministry reaching out to people in the community and especially persons living with HIV and AIDS. One of the challenges of rigidity that we face too often is you find religious leaders who have convictions which, if you try to evaluate on the basis of the Bible, I'll say they have no basis. But they are strongly convinced that, for instance, if a minister finds two youths or two people who want to wed, and one of them is HIV positive, will you wed these two? And most church ministers say, I can't. Why should I give them a death sentence? And the question is, who said that wedding two people when one is HIV positive or both are HIV positive, that is a death sentence? It is all a question of misunderstanding and also acting with, allow me to call it half-baked information. When Hosea says, my people perish because of lack of knowledge, it's because people lack knowledge. So the little they know, they hold on to it as if that is the whole truth. And when we become rigid and we base that on Christian beliefs and concepts, we act as if we know more than the one who gave us the law. We know more than Jesus. We know more than God. When in fact the concern that God has is for our hearts. The motive of giving the law is to help man get closer to the Maker and live on. So there are areas where people are very rigid, like the rules in marriage. where, in fact, when the person gets true and accurate information, that rigidity changes. The person understands the people better and can serve them better. So, in ministry, we need to put off rigidity to some degree, but still, again, maintain some rigidity in some areas, as the case may be. So I leave it at that as we continue discussing.
What about fundamentals? What do you see? Does there any connection with this?
Okay, maybe I'll leave that for another comment or somebody to comment. But fundamentalism going to the far extreme sometimes is also bad. But
I don't think it's not sometimes, it's always. Fundamentalism is always bad. It is
too much to the overboard, too much to the left or too much to the right. We need to come to the center.
Okay. Let me have his opinion because I don't want to take you more than 7:20. No. Yeah? I want to keep them. So
We need to be flexible.
Let me hear his
Okay, I want to throw some key, but one cup. It was one cup in the most.
There was only one cup, and I'm deciding to unless there's somebody who wants to challenge me.
This is can't spill over.
Just
1 second. Yeah.
Nataka uji. Uendelee bwana. Yes.
Okay, you wanted to.
Chunga is.
You don't need to be rigid.
Chunga.
Okay,
Let's
let's
one
one
more.
This
No, this is yours.
Oh, yeah, I have one.
Okay. What about?
No, I'm okay.